Those of you listening to this tape can join with us in the very interesting and practical experiment we're going to make tonight. We're going to work at it experimentally and also add certain basic principles of knowledge in order to understand more about the mind and how it works. Because finally it's the understanding of the mind that puts us in control of it, and therefore in control of our whole lives. So will you please, in this room, and those of you listening to this tape, please write down the following on your slips of paper. 1, the figure 1, and after that write directed thought. 1, directed thought. Underneath that, 2, vagabond thought. 2, vagabond thought. And under that, the figure 3, no thought. 3, no thought. All right, just set that aside. We may or may not refer to it again, but just set it aside so you're at ease over it. You won't be writing anything for a while. Now, think for a minute of all the dozens, perhaps hundreds of ways in which the mind can function, can move, can operate. Just think in general. Let's get a general idea of what we're going into. The mind can operate as memory. You can remember how to get home. Function as imagination, which can be either right or wrong imagination. If it's coupled with neurotic suspicion, it'll be wrong imagination. If it's coupled with how to plan a new home you're going to build, that would be right imagination. The mind can be in a right mood, what you call a pleasant mood. It can be in an unpleasant mood. It can select, it can reject, it can be depressed, it can be elated, it can be puzzled, it can be confused, it can tell the truth, and it can tell lies. Just think, you could add many more to that, I'm sure yourself, if you just think about it, all the things that the mind can do. However, tonight, we're going to go into an interesting experiment connected with what you just wrote down. Select 3 of the ways in which it works, and you'll see that they are fundamental. And if you will remember these, tomorrow, when you go out to your work, when you're around the home, if you'll remember these and practice them, just think, that's why you should write them down. Practice them. It'll be very clear to you how the mind can alternate from one way to another way. Okay? Okay, now, we're first going to take directed thought. In other words, you are going to be in charge of what you're going to think about for the next minute or two. And I will select it for you in this case, but you can select it for yourself anytime you want. You're going to choose deliberately, consciously, to think about a certain thing. But I will select it for now, and then we'll all think about it. I want you to think silently for just a few seconds, and the tape will be silent too, of course. Think deliberately about the harm of liking to be negative. We're going to deliberately think aloud for a moment, and then silently, about the harm in liking to be negative, and we do like it, we prefer it, or we wouldn't fall into it. Because it gives us a sense of I, a good feeling that I am someone, and you're someone else if I can get angry at you. So, directed thought. I've directed you in this case to the subject of seeing the folly of liking negative thought. Now, for the next 30 seconds, Ponder it, think about it, run back and forth with it. This subject only, stick with it now. Go ahead. All right, that's enough. Now, you are to select, direct your own subject and think about it for the same period of time. Go ahead, select a subject and just think about it. Make yourself think about that particular topic. All right. Next one is vagabond thought, which was where we live practically all the time. Vagabond thought, which is set off by exterior objects, by interior impressions, by associations, by a word, by a facial expression, by a light bulb that suddenly goes out when we want to read. Associative thought. It's one way. Now, for the next 30 seconds, you're not to have any concern at all. You're not to give a hoot as to about what you think about. You're going to be in vagabond thought. No direction at all. No selection at all. Think about anything you want. Who cares? Go ahead. But think about something. All right. Maybe you thought about a dozen things in that period of time. Okay. These two are relatively easy. Not much to it. Especially the second one. Now we work hard, and you'll find yourself wondering whether you're doing it or not, and I will assure you that you're probably not. I'm not going to judge your mind, but so that you don't deceive yourself, I will say that you will not do what I'm going to ask you to do next, but we're going to try. We have to start. For the next 30 seconds, don't think about anything at all. All right, what happened? Did any of you succeed? Did any of you fail? What? What happened? Tell me what happened, somebody. Did you think about anything at all? Huh? Yes.
Thinking about not thinking at all.
Yes, right. Right. You know, if you don't want to call it no thinking, you can just call it being in a state of awareness where thought is not present at all. It doesn't mean your mind is asleep. As a matter of fact, you're seeing and hearing exterior objects. It's wide awake, quite wide awake. But it's not at that particular moment caught in any kind of thought at all, including directed thought or vagabond thought. Next experiment. This is very complex. This will take years to master, but we're going to do it. I want you to go into vagabond thought right now. Relax, who cares what you think about? Think about cherry pie or the skies of Montana, anything you want. Now stop. Stop thinking. What are you thinking about now? The assignment, the general assignment, and you won't be asked to report on it or anything at all, but you have it down on paper. The assignment is to practice being in all three states. Try to break yourself, for example, when you're in vagabond thought, and switch to directed thought. You can go from one to the other. Doesn't make any difference. From one to the other two. Just try it. Watch how you can, maybe you're being in no thought at all for a while, and you've sustained it, And in natural alternation, because all three of these are natural, vagabond thought has its place too. You can't be thinking about the same thing all the time. There are associations that are going to carry you away, and it's right and necessary. Otherwise, you wouldn't stop at the boulevard stop. This is your work. It's hard work, and it's a lot of fun. Do it. Do it, for example, in bed when everything is quiet and you're just laying there. Lay there on your back and watch your mind operate and watch where it is. Just watch the location it's in. Then experiment with what you've been told and try to shift it to another one. Look at the value there would be, for example, in laying in bed, and you're thinking about all the things that have happened during the day. Vagabond thought, which is most cases is wasteful, because you're wondering about your boss or whether you should have done something another way to please someone. Whatever. The whole thing. Stop it. Just stop it and go into directed thought. I'm going to think of how nothing on earth matters but straightening out my mind. Wouldn't that be better to think about than running over and over the same old phonograph record all day long? All right, I'm going to add one thing, and then we're going to go into something else which relates to this. All right, deliberately think about something, anything. Go ahead and think about it. Stop it. Now I'm going to direct you to think about the interior of your home. Imagination, thought. Picture it. What's the interior of your home like? Look at it, see it. Okay? Lamps, chairs, ceiling. Got it? Huh? Did you all think about the interior of your home? All right, stop. Notice something fascinating. Fascinating. We're learning how it works. While you were thinking about the interior of your home, you didn't know you were thinking, did you? Be careful. Be careful. While you were thinking, you didn't know you're thinking. It's impossible. Now you can remember that you thought about it, can't you? You may think you were thinking. You were not. You were absorbed in thinking itself, and there was no one else thinking that you were thinking about it. That was the only thought that was in your mind at the time, the living room, or whatever room you went to. Right? Because the mind goes so fast, we often think that we can think about our thinking, but we can't. We can only think. So that when you are lying down in bed at night and you're thinking about something, practice this too as a little side issue, to come to an end of thinking about something and see that at the time that it was on your mind, that is all there was. All this has tremendous practical value. I can't begin to tell you, but we're going to now go into one discussion of how valuable it is. Practical application, tremendous. Joan, do you remember about 3 mornings ago when I was at your house and we were out in the kitchen and I had my coffee and I had it fixed all ready to drink, and you came out and offered me something? Do you remember the incident at all? Do you remember it? If you don't, I won't ask you to reconstruct it.
Vaguely.
All right. I wanted to tell you something then. I did tell you in a way, best it could without being too strong, to put an end to thought. I look at every one of you here and I see you're unable to break thought. You carry it around with you. You don't know how to be done with something. Whether it's a second ago or 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, or this afternoon in the office where you had that confrontation with someone. You don't know how to be done with it. And isn't that a shame? That we don't know how to put an end to thought, which is the end of me, good, the end of that fighting person. Isn't it beautiful that I can right now, put an end to that angry person of an hour ago, that scared person of 2 hours ago, that desperate person of a week ago. It's astonishing. I'm not being dramatic. I'm telling you. It's astonishing that right now I can be free. You mean to say you're going to spend your spare time in doing anything but exploring this? You mean you're going to let any person or any circumstance stand in the way of you setting yourself a free man, a free woman right now? What do I have to give up? I don't think we've used the word clinging very much. Let's use that. I have to give up clinging to whatever I presently value, which I do not as yet see has no value at all. The security of having a permanent lover. The security of having fixed philosophies. The security of thinking that I am kindly, and you're not. The security of having an exciting future ahead. All that has to go. And I'll add one more thing. Which will become clearer to you as you put together everything we've talked about till now. Listen to this. The people who didn't come to this meeting tonight may never hear it again. They'll never get it. They'll never be able to use it and never be able to work with it. We have to want it. I want you, from now on, to go as fast and as far into your own evil as possible without turning away from it. Because you don't understand the layer after layer after layer after layer of it, because our pseudo-securities, our pictures of ourselves, our ideas about how we've got it made, stand in the way of seeing it, and only by seeing it can I come out of it. I really cannot use words to tell you the enormous thing I'm trying to tell you about. Because you have to experiment it for yourself. Experiment for yourself. Example. You're on the path. You're working on yourself. You come to the meetings, you read the books. You do everything possible to get these things. You will see for the first time a feeling that you are unworthy to be doing this, that you're too evil. Therefore, you're a hypocrite. I come to these meetings and I behave my best, and I make comments and I give little talks, and then I think all these thoughts. I'm a hypocrite. What am I going to do? I better give it up. I shouldn't be a hypocrite. You stay right on the path, being a hypocrite, being lustful after women, being greedy, being petty. You ought to shout with joy to know that nothing out there and especially nothing in here can keep you from finding the truth if you will walk on in spite of your own evil. I take a deep breath myself at the enormity of it. Nothing can stop me. Nothing. As long as I don't quit. You have been bluffed by evil long enough. You're not going to let it intimidate you, scare you, make you feel unworthy, or throw you off the path anymore. You have been bluffed long enough by your own sickness. You're not going to listen to it anymore. You're going to put an end to it by keeping on. Look how simple it becomes. Look how simple. All I have to do is walk. I'm not going to listen anymore to any attempts of my own mind to make me feel ashamed of anything I have done or am doing or will do. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. You're not going to make a sinner out of me anymore. You're not going to call me a sinner. You're not going to call me degraded. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I've done this all my life and I see what has come of it. True, I don't understand. That I know. True, I don't get it yet. I don't understand. At the same time, I'm through listening to self-condemnation. Heaven knows I want out, and I'm going to find it. I'm going to make it. Break time. Right. What I talked about before the first half of the session ended is the same thing as having right rebellion. Now I'll ask you, any of you, and comment please, what do you have to say about right rebellion? Do you feel you're in it? What are you rebelling against? What are you rebelling against, Connie? What's it all about? What?
I'm rebelling against my liking my negativities, my enjoying them.
Yeah. She connected, didn't she? Directed attention. Did your hand go?
Yes.
Yeah.
You once said in a meeting that you spent your day arguing with yourself. You know, you were giving out this general thoughts out, and I felt, you know, that's what I actually do myself. Instead of, let's say, I'm to carry out the work project, self-observation. Well, it's not that. I'm arguing with myself most of the time, and it's mostly between guilt thoughts, shameful thoughts, and thinking that I'm working, actually arguing with myself.
All right. All right. Rudy and the rest of us. Excuse me. Can we not catch ourselves arguing and stop it? Why don't you stop it? We know why, don't we? A general statement. Why don't we stop this stupid, useless, energy draining arguing? Simply because that freight train is running so fast and furious, we're not able to yet. But we're getting on to the tricks of it. To use the, make an illustration out of it, we're learning how to turn on the brakes on this freight train. Just first slow it down a little bit. Eventually, put an end to it. Stop it. When a situation is done, be done with it. As, for example, arguing with myself.
On the way out here, I spent 11 hours the first day listening to vagabond thought mostly, and something like 7 or 8 hours the second day, and it's very boring. It's just a horrible. That made the trip awful. Just to have to listen to a mind that went on, and there was no control over stopping it.
Right.
I had an interesting experience driving up here the last time from Wickenburg. It seems driving, for some reason, the mind does just go on and on and on. And of course, driving up so often, I've tried to learn to work with that. And every once in a while, I would catch myself in vagabond thought. And I had the impression at the time, I bring myself back to now, I had the feeling that I was shrinking, that while I was in negative thought, that's all there was. And I could feel myself coming back to where I could feel myself little in a car, in the world. It impressed me that when there is negative thought, it's all me. That's all I am.
That's what you are. That's your
And then when
world.
I want myself back,
Yes.
then I was just a little itty-bitty person in a great big world.
Well,
I mean,
no, Connie, don't put it that way. Because a little person is still a person. A little person always wants to become a big person.
Yeah.
So you see, let me ask you a question before I say it. And then if you have more, you can go on. But let me get this, please. Do you see the difficulty of saying what we have to say with words? Do you understand? Because I'm getting here. Look, if you're not there as a little person, then where are you? The question is wrong. When you say, where am I, you're still I. Go ahead.
Well, I think that is the problem, trying to express the feeling there.
Yeah, it's very difficult to talk
The point
about this.
is that what I did see clearly was that when I was in negative thought, that's all there was.
It's all there was of you, and that's all there was of your world. Because you are your world. That's all there is. Can you imagine? If you can imagine a person putting a torch to the whole world, burning the whole world, what a horrible thing. I am putting a torch to me, to my world. When I hate someone, when I'm furious, when I'm angry, when I'm jealous. You want to live that way? We don't want it anymore. But look. The easiest thing in the world to do is to remain deceived. Very simple. All I have to do is call my anger by another name. Call it energetic enterprise. You get your own labels. All I have to do is call my neurosis dynamism. Say it, Leland. Dynamism. All I have to do is call it something else. I'm free of the problem, and now I can continue to hate you while saying I love you. The letter you got, Joan, shut it off, Rudy. I'm asking you to repeat earlier subjects.
The reason that the process of observation is so critical is that we must come to the point that you just described. Namely, we must stop calling my anger my justice or my righteousness or something like that. We must see what its actual consequence is, so that the mind which becomes quiet is not the dull mind or the mind which has been made quiet mechanically, but the one which is really alive because it's seen through the consequence of the wrong functioning of the mind.
That's an interesting point. What the world calls an alive, active human being. Shut it off, Rudy. Yes.
What you said about that we cannot be aware while we're in thought is very easy to see when you're in conversation as well, and how in being in conversation at work, I'm taken away from myself, and it may be a long time before I ever catch it again.
Yes. And you just used a good phrase, or I'll rephrase it. Come back to ourselves. That's what we're doing, coming back to ourselves. I've been arguing with myself for 5 minutes. I've been carrying the weight of the shame of because I did something dumb or said something stupid. The prodigal son has to come back home. I have to drop whatever's out in the vineyards or swineyards or whatever. I have to drop it and come home. In other words, I have to drop the arguing, the jealous, come back to where I really belong, to a conscious mind, to this quiet mind you were talking about. There's no argument at all because it's not connected to the past at all. It's not in time at all. See? Not in time. I've dropped time. Then time is used properly. I remember to turn left at the corner instead of right in order to get home. That is time thinking and has its place.
The real meaning of death is separation or division, and the reason that the people that you've described are dead psychologically is that they are incapable of having a relationship with anything that is real, that is, a relationship with truth, with things as they actually exist.
Incapable.
And for this reason, nothing fits. It's like a machine in which all of the gears fail to mesh so that it goes nowhere. It simply spins and has no consequence, no meaning, no vitality.
Gives speeches. It can be turned to hatred. Every dead human being can be turned to hatred in 1 second. Right?
Right.
Have you ever known? Shows you how we understand certain things down at a certain low level. Have you ever been very cautious in talking with someone that you sensed might blow up if you said the wrong thing? You've watched your words. We've all done it. You've watched your words with him or her. Well, see, that shows we're not so dumb. Down underneath, we understand that, at least. But we can go way beyond that. Way beyond it. So that you might actually do the same thing, but do it consciously and without fear. Before we did it fearfully. We could sense, don't say the wrong thing, boy, he'll blow up at you. And you know the next stage beyond that? I'll tell you what the next stage beyond either both fearing, saying the right, being careful so you don't offend that person, and doing it unconsciously, and doing it unconsciously. Those two. There's one stage beyond that. And that stage is called getting up from your chair and walking out of that person's life. Psychologically or physically? One or both. Isn't it beautiful that you and I can get up and walk out, and we'll do it when we see the necessity and the rightness of doing it. Walking out, shut it off, Rudy.
You want the tape recorder?
Oh yeah, I sometimes don't catch it. On, Rudy. You can shut it off for a minute, Rudy. You can suck it on and we'll continue to discuss. Ooh, time goes so fast.
You discussed more of the idea of the person being aware of his condition. You've mentioned that when I'm in mechanical thought or when I'm in a negative state, that's all there is of me. Now, the process of breaking that is the process of reflecting on the condition itself. Is that...
Well, not quite. Let me put it this way. True, when I'm in it, I don't know that I'm in it. I don't know that I'm in it. This is why you can't tell an angry person, you can, you know. You're mad, stop being mad, he'll deny it. He can't see his state, you know. The thing is to, as simply as possible, Leland, the important thing is to practice stopping the train. Now say what you said again, and let's see if we can catch it again. Say it again. If you can.
You've said it so simply that you've said that it's not the process of reflecting on negative
All right.
thought patterns, but the process of simply stopping
Yeah,
them, dismissing them, being done with them.
Not that it's wrong to reflect. Get this now. I'll rephrase it. It is right to reflect, but impartially. Look, 10 minutes ago, I was rude. Because I was asleep, by the way. Yeah, I'm mechanical. I was rude. Okay. Now, I'm working on myself. I'm remembering myself. I'm doing the whole business. I think back. I was rude. Okay, that's a fact. But 10 minutes ago in time, I was rude. Now, this is okay so far. If I do it impartially, without going into second thought, I am rude, therefore next time I'm going to be polite. You won't be. You're still trying to be polite, and I is rude. I is always rude. Right? But impartially, there was rudeness that passed through me, that took me over. We have to use me, I. Look. A negative state called rudeness took me over, grabbed me, made my tongue say that what I said, made my face contort in rudeness, took me over. I was a slave. Okay, I see it. Therefore, I'm going to work on myself. Try to watch, for example, the next situation where that person takes my coffee cup and I make a rude remark to him. I'm going to watch myself walk up to the situation and try to stop thought, connected with emotion, so that I won't be rude again. So that I won't suffer so much. Because I really do suffer. That's a fact. I suffer. I'm rude, and I know that that is wrong. I suffer at the moment I'm rude. Because I shake. I'm afraid you're going to hit me. And I know it's wrong. I know it's not natural. I know it's not good to be rude. Therefore, I went to the class and they said if I work and keep at it, I can stop being rude, because there is another way to respond to every situation so that I don't have to be rude or angry, upset, but free of it. Now, I don't know what that means, but I'm going to work and find out. Seeing that I have been a slave to rudeness is part of the cure. So reflective thought in that sense is okay, but not condemnation and not justification. That's clear, isn't it?
Right.
Who has to explain that anymore?
me hear me.
Ah,
Did you say that when we're in a negative state, we don't know we're in it?
that's right.
It
Mm.
seems-
All right, I know. Okay, okay. I feel it, I suffer it, I don't know it, because I am it. In one sense. You see, I can feel, see, but afterward I can catch and say I was in a negative state. At the moment, I'll deny it, because I am it, and there's no one outside of it. But at the same time, at the same time, I am paying the price of it. That is not the same thing as being aware of it in a different way. This is getting very complex. Are you following it?
Well, can't you? It seems to me that when I'm angry, I mean, I can know I'm angry. Can't a part of the mind say, I've fallen again?
And that is memory operating, say I was angry 1/1,000,000th of a second ago. If you indeed are doing that.
Isn't it slowing down, connecting the two, slowing down the freight train?
Slowing down thought so I can see what thought I thought a minute ago, a second
Well,
ago.
like what Sally was saying, I can remember when maybe a negative state could last for 2 hours or 3, I could be in it for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think back 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. Okay, then what I see as I work on myself, I'm slowing it down. I can see where it'll happen, and I'll be in it. And I couldn't be conscious, I couldn't be aware or awake or anything else. And then maybe it'll last, let's say, 5 minutes. And all of a sudden I'll realize, I'll walk out of the room or something, and I'll realize that for the last 5 minutes that I didn't know. I was in that state and I was just so totally absorbed that I couldn't think straight or anything else. So it's just cutting it down, trying to cut it down.
Sally, I know what you're thinking. Sally, all of us, you will experiment, and you tell me whether you're conscious of being angry at the time you are. Is there such a thing as being consciously angry, by the way? Or is anger a part of the sleep state?
You're it. You're it at the moment.
I have two thoughts about that. It seems that there are times when we can, as Sally and Fred are sort of hinting at, times when we can see that the devil has taken over and he's trying to hold on, and we're somehow conscious at one level that this is happening, but at the other level he's still in control.
That's very good. That's very good.
So this moves along, and hopefully the awareness ultimately prevails. That is, it's the slowing down process that Fred is talking about.
There's no question at all, but as we work on this, you can call it an alternating process. And at the very beginning, remember we say if we can break it for one split second at the start of our work, that's something, that's great. And then it's gone and we're mad for the rest of the day, and the next day we can break it so that we're not mad for 2 seconds, and the rest of the day and it does alternate, but gradually we grow stronger and the other grows weaker. It has to. Our whole business is to make our darkness disappear. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, further connecting it a little more as an example. We'll say tonight I was supposed to get through at 6. So I could see it. I could see the devil sneaking up because I had to do something and I wasn't going to get through at 6. So after a while, at least I can see the pattern, and I know ahead of time now, everybody will have a certain thing, and one of mine is, if I'm supposed to work, I can see all the things that enter in, and I'll say, well, I worked 10 hours and that's enough. But then something will come up, something will happen, maybe I'll have to work another hour. So I can see the whole business of what's happening, and I can see the negative state approaching. And it's a lot easier to work on than before, because it's happened so many times before. It was mechanical and I was asleep. At least now I can see it. I know. I mean, it's just a big signal.
All right.
If I have to work overtime, then that's...
You are saying, are you not, that you can begin to see the devil tempt you. Is that
Right.
fair?
Yeah, right. Or see him
Isn't that tremendous for any of us to do? That shows we're not walking blindly right into it and blowing up.
One of the problems that we have in talking about these things is the ambiguity in the way that we use the term consciousness, because to be really conscious means that there is no I present, which means that there is no resistance. And obviously, if there is no resistance, there is no devil, there is no negative emotion, there's just clarity. So that in the way that we're talking about it here, we're using the consciousness also to mean sort of a state of awareness, looking at our
Seeing?
that's right. That it's not perfect clarity yet, it's something sort of moving in that direction. But to go back to the question that you asked about anger, it would seem to me that yes, there would be such a thing. Well, again, if a person were perfectly conscious, there would be no reason for anger, but I can certainly see that there is what you call right rebellion. That is, there is bringing forward consciously an anger to oppose my own negative state.
No anger.
What would we call it then, Vernon? What would you call right rebellion then? Let's say that I see that I'm compromised by jealousy or hatred or anything else.
Okay.
Let's say that I see that my real state is
Negative.
negative.
All right,
perilous. Okay.
So what's your point?
So, my point is that to approach that, let's say to drop it, the power of dropping it comes from a right emotion, which is
Okay.
somehow
Okay.
an unwillingness to go along with it,
Okay.
which is not anger in the negative sense, but it seems to me it is like an anger in the positive sense.
Oh, no. Why do you even use the word anger
I think
in
what
that?
he's trying to
in
say,
that?
Vernon, that he wants to bring another emotion. And
Well, a
in other words,
feeling-
I'm not going to do it anymore.
Well, certainly. That's not anger. Or is it? Are you confusing it? Maybe the devil has put one over on you. Fred's devil has
Maybe
put
he
one
has.
over on you.
Maybe he has, really.
All right? All right? You
Ponder that.
You ponder that one.
Because if he has, then obviously he will extract payment further down the line. If there's one step ahead, there will be another step back, or maybe 1.5.
Yeah, we pay. Oh, we pay.
If it were really anger, it would be further division. It would be further.
All right. Can Satan cast out Satan? All right. There you go. There's your whole answer. Can the devil cast out the devil? What happens in the world is that one devil dresses up as an angel and calls the other person a devil. Then he's the angel of truth casting out the devil. But he's really a devil himself. Shut up.
I see a good example of this in our Spanish class, where one of the kids will start making it funny or something like that to one of his friends while the teacher is talking, and then the teacher will say, "Now quit being rude," and the teacher will go into the kids being rude. He'll start talking about it 5-10 minutes. He'll talk about the kids wasting time. He'll waste time about the kids wasting time.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. That's one variety of pouncing and self-righteousness, the whole thing put together. I have to tell you a story. Shut it. No, leave it
Leave it
on.
on, Rudy.
leave it on. Now this is for Leland, and it's probably a repeat, but that was good, fine, and that reminded me. Now it's my turn to talk. On jury service, just before you go into the jury room, the judge reads the instructions. You're to consider the evidence only, don't be swayed by whatever, the whole bit. One great judge, on the everyday level, who'd done it 1,000 times, so he knew what to say. Bang, 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 bang. Go in. We were in the jury room in 1 minute of instructions. He was concise to the point. Off we went. We understood what he said. Now another judge. This man, you know what he was? He was Othello in the theater. He was Cyrano de Bergerac in the theater. He was King Lear in the theater. This was his theater. And he sat up there with his robes and addressed us 12 jurymen. And he pounded the pulpit. And he waved and he gestured. And he orated for 15 minutes, telling us to what he could have said in 5-10 minutes, the seconds, to consider all the evidence impartially, ladies and gentlemen, and render a just verdict. He had the time of his life, just like I'm doing now. Pouncing on a situation. And that's why your taxes are so high. And the courts are behind schedule. Anyway, we'll take 10 more minutes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Fred, then one.
I was just gonna say that, it's so mechanical that it's very hard for me to break, but I can see the connection between my phony eye, which says, well, I've worked 8, 9, or 10 hours today, and in other words, I can gripe to myself. I can run the argument through my mind and gripe about working 6 or 7 days a week, or 8 or 9 or 10 hours, or whatever it is. And yet, I can see myself getting up in the morning, and I insist, or someone insists, that the first half hour, that somehow I have to boil the water and drink 1 or 2 cups of coffee the first half hour. In other words, I can see all the time, at different, going through the day, I can see different moments where I just waste time, where the laziness in me will say, I insist that I sit here for 45 minutes or whatever before I go to work, when I could cut all of these things down
Yes.
and do the whole...
You're a
you know,
dawdler.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
dawdler.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly, and to see it in other areas, and to connect it, to see how you can gripe about one thing,
Right,
and
right.
yet waste time doing something
No.
else.
True. One.
Yeah, on the idea you had before, you said we must go into the evil, our own evil.
Right.
Because there's one layer after another layer. And we have to go fast.
Fast as we can take it.
Yes,
Now go
we
ahead.
can take it right. And then come back, because it is very painful. It is, but it's, that is the cure, the only cure.
Plunge into it. Don't waste another second. Plunge into it. Plunge into what? Plunge into every confusion, every evil, anything. Who knows? Every weakness. And what will happen, among other things, is that you'll think that you have conquered something and it'll come back again. And now you'll say, oh, what a hypocrite I've been. Why, I gave a talk. I gave a talk last Sunday on overcoming so-and-so, and I find out that I haven't overcome it. I'm a liar and a hypocrite. You are doing just great if you will see the thing that happened without condemning yourself. But it's a shock. You know, we don't want to see contradictions because they destroy our pretty images, right? Find some little behavior. What could it be? Not in front of anyone else in the work. I wish I could see some of you at the post office off in the corner and you're the only one there. Or at the cafe, or at work. I wish I could just watch you behave to see whether you're behaving consciously. We'll wait till Connie get... I think we hit Connie here. Can you see a contradiction in the way you behave in this room than when you behave out in that world? Believe me, this is valuable if you don't condemn yourself and say, I'm a hypocrite, I better hide it. See the contradiction, that there's a difference in the way I preach and the way I practice. That's very valuable. It is. It is. Catch yourself catch yourself red-handed. Right, Juan? That's a phrase we had one time. Connie?
I went to the post office yesterday when I came home from work. And I drove into the parking lot and I thought I saw your car there and I thought, whoops, watch myself. Vernon's around here.
Better behave. Look, we can all watch ourselves in situations like that. Driving the car is great. But you have to be real careful or you'll make a mistake. When I drove down here this evening and came to that boulevard stop and was about to make my left, this 18-year-old idiot, and he could have been a 90-year-old idiot, it wouldn't make no difference, but this 18-year-old idiot, which is what he is, because that's idiocy, that's insanity, aroused feeling in me. And I studied the whole thing, studied my minute and a half. I studied myself. I wanted to see what it was all about. I was not going to be negative. I wasn't going to condemn, and I'm not doing it now even. When I say he's an idiot, I'm not condemning him. I'm stating a fact. To me, this is a fact. The man is insane. I don't feel superior to him. I watched my own feeling. Now, and now listen to this and you'll see. Listen to this. One reaction among any's was one of fear. You know what it was? Instinctive fear. And I was watching this instinctive fear operate. The instinctive fear said, careful, you'll be killed. God, nature, put that in you, and in me so that we wouldn't get that self-preservation. And I wish there should be some other word than fear so we don't get confused. Instinctive self-preservation. But there was an alertness, call it what you want, an alertness, be careful, on that level, right? And another level was watching him, another level was saying, you should know better than to myself, you should know better than to think that he wouldn't do it. The idiocy, the contradictions, shut it off. You know nothing can happen, but that president, is it off? Then we can see the insanity without condemning it. Condemn it. Every one of you will now do directed thinking by thinking of some big dumb thing. Deliberately remember what's a dumb thing you did. Take all night if we did all of them, but one particularly stupid thing. Got it? Got it? Doesn't that kind of knock the self-righteousness out of us? Okay. Because real sanity certainly has no self-righteousness in it. It has no self.
Actually, the no self is the higher level, and the perfected self doesn't make those same mistakes anymore. So it's not, let's say, the memory of past mistakes, I should think, that solves self-righteousness. It's just as you say, the no self.
You've died.
That's right.
You've died.
It's all over.
It's gone. You're not carrying it.
Is it on, really? Could we? This is a long way, I think, beyond where we are now to talk about this, but in the work there are the terms objective thought and objective consciousness used. Could we relate those terms to what we've been talking about tonight?
You can talk about them, I am not. You want to talk about them? Okay.
Well, I could, but I don't know that it would be fruitful.
All right. The meeting is officially over.
I would like to get back on that.
I'm just shifting. You want to leave it on, it's okay with me. Yeah, it's up to you. What's that? What?
I'd like to refer back to that evil, which you...
To evil?
That you brought up, because you have said it here many times, and it's very hard, I feel very hard. We still think there's good people out there. See? Very good. So that's why we have to go through our evil, to see that. Okay?
Absolutely.
Also, the self-righteous will be knocked out of us.
Absolutely.
And angers and condemning them. There's nothing good up there. Like he said, that guy in the car, 60-year-old lady, I don't care what, but I have to see it here. I have to go real fast. But our mind still doesn't think that's positive. You know, to see the badness, we still think that it's a negative thing because we want to keep our images in place. You know, the nice.
Yeah, fine one. Let me set a proposition before you. You are in your car. This happened to me, personalizing it. This happened to me too in Henderson one time. Yeah, but you're in the car now. You're driving your car down a lonely stretch of highway between the main highway and Henderson, right? You know, only divided by a paint strip. You're driving your car. This is what happened to me, and we're picturing it for you. Toward you, again, it's kids. Now, I'm sorry, but they're idiots. They do it and get higher insurance rates. A couple of kids in a car was coming toward me. I didn't know it was kids, of course, till they got close. They could see me as clear day now. What they were doing was playing the game of scaring me by, as they came toward me, going over to my side of the road, then going back again to theirs, then dipping over again, doing it deliberately. It wasn't loss of control. Deliberate. This was their idea of fun. This was their insane idea of fun. Okay? All right, you got the situation so far? Physically, my life might have been in danger or was in danger. Maybe something could have gone wrong. They'd stayed on that side too long or something like that. But that's not the point. The point is this. Obviously, the sensible thing to do, which I didn't do because it wasn't quite that bad, was to get off the road, let them get by, do something to get the physical danger out of the way. But that's still not the point. The point is this. Can you see sheer idiocy? And there's no insanity, and I wish there's a stronger word than insanity. Can you see the insanity of this kind of behavior and not become furious at it? Because if you become furious at it, there's something wrong with you. Can you see it without fury? Very difficult, believe me, because it rises. You want to swear, don't you? You want to say those bad words, and you want to kill them. Right? You want to kill them. You understand all the emotion that gets into this? You get it. You know what I'm talking about. That's not for you and I, or you and me, which is a better grammar, I guess. We're going to, see, this is an extreme situation, doesn't happen every day, but we want to use this so that if we can pass the higher tests of a terrible thing like this, we can pass the lower tests, but we use all of them. Okay, I'm through. You got it?
Yeah.
Huh?
I got
The swear words come up?
Yeah, that's one of the emotions that comes. That's very fast on something like that.
Stop it. Do what's necessary on the physical level. Get away from those madmen. But at the same time, you're working on your own self-development. And you don't want to miss the opportunity. Not that you'll ask for another one.
When you're doing something like that, are you putting yourself in as much danger as the kids were putting you into? When you're thinking, oh, those bad kids, I want to kill them and stuff. Because you could just be thinking about that and then run into a tree or something.
You're destroying your own control of the car, aren't you? You're driving with emotion instead of with the mind, which we once accused Sally of doing, didn't we, Warren? Remember one time we told Sally she was driving with her feelings instead of with her mind? You're supposed to drive your car with your mind, not with your emotions. She was driving with her feelings, and it was very obvious the three of us were going somewhere. Just by looking at her face, we could tell she was in an emotional state. Not a negative one necessarily, but a wrongly alive one. It shouldn't have been there. Sit up with your mind and relaxed.
Isn't it true that we can also be in physical danger in trying to, in physical danger from other people, in trying to break away, doing the things that you talked about earlier in tonight's meeting and what you talked about last Saturday.
Yes, and you have to use your brains.
But the trouble is, I can't even think logically, and I don't even know how to behave at this meeting when in a break, let alone how to do that.
One step at a time, we'll do it. Yes, Fred.
I don't know if this, how this, well anyways, what I wanted to say is, one time when I was living in San Jose, there was a fellow living there, and he, sometimes he worked for a while, and then when he wasn't working, he was, at the same time, I guess he was collecting welfare. But
Yeah.
anyways, after he got through working,
Cut out.
Yeah.